بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Since yesterday we were going through the various different harms of hasad. So number 5 was that number 6, a person who is jealous of others, he's going to go through constant exhaustion and stress without any benefit, but rather they'll be getting sin and disobedience because of it. Because it's going to be an internal rage and an internal burning while seeing the other person in the ni'mah that they have. So it's just personal exhaustion for no point. Number 7, it eventually leads to the blindness of the heart. What does that mean? Blindness of the heart to the extent that eventually one will probably not understand the divine commands. Because the rage obscures and blinds us to what we should be doing correctly and the correct procedure. So that's why many other Islamic ahkam will be abandoned because of this, because a person will become blind to it. And number 8, a person will become bad. There'll be hirman in Arabic, and there'll be khidlan, being forsaken by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, such that one can hardly find success in any endeavor, nor will they be able to overcome their enemies, for which reason it is said that the envious person never prospers. So as I said, even purely from a worldly sake, if you're just hasad, it's when you're just doing it to compete with others, you don't get as much success as wanting just to do it to be the best yourself. Now, what is the treatment for hasad? The treatment for hasad is for one to first realize that envy harms its possessor in both this world and in his religious affairs. This is very, very harmful for us to realize that this is a very, very harmful thing. That it harms us, but it's not going to harm the other person, as that person is going to continue to benefit. Now, the religious harm in this case of how we are religiously harmed is that the envier becomes frustrated with Allah's decree. Why did Allah give him that? Why did Allah give her that? Why didn't Allah give me that? So that is the hasad. That essentially reduced down to, why did Allah give so-and-so something and not me something? So you're complaining about Allah's decree. You will despise Allah's blessings that He allocated among other people. It's a blessing and you're despising Allah's blessing. If you have something that I don't have and I feel jealous about it, that means I'm despising Allah's blessings on you. It's still a blessing of Allah, whether it's for you or me. It's a blessing of Allah and I must respect the blessings of Allah. Number 2, he hates Allah's justice and fairness. He thinks Allah is being unfair because why did He give it to him? So he thinks that Allah should have given it according to how I think it should be given. So can you see how problematic that is? He then considers the divine allocation to be wrong, and then it proves treacherous and and then you prove to be treacherous and insincere to your fellow believer, because you don't want for him what you would like for yourself. While treachery is unlawful, and genuine concern must be incumbent upon us for other people. As for the worldly harm is that there's going to be lots of stress, possibly depression, and you're going to need medicine. You might have to go on to Prozac, you might have to go to the psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, you might have to go and get ruqya done, you might have to spend thousands of pounds. I'm making all of that up. But basically that is what happens sometimes. As for worldly harm, the envier is in constant anxiety, sadness, and emotional disquiet, and he has bad dreams at night. Now, if a person has the envied person, on the other hand, suffers no harm, in that the envy does not remove his blessings, nor entail sin from the envied. So the more hasad we have, it's not going to remove the other person's blessings at all. As for the religious benefit for the envied person, meaning if you are somebody who is mahsood, meaning somebody who other people envy, the number 1, you have to remember that your blessings will not be removed. And number 2, because you are considered madhloom, anybody who anybody that you have hasad for, that person is actually oppressed by you. And the oppressed person has huge amounts of reward for bearing with patience the oppression. As for the worldly benefit for the envied, one must understand that of the most important aims of a human is for his enemy to be in harm and anxiety. The envied causes the envier to be in stress and unrest, the latter being harmed by his own envy without realizing it. Its practical treatment is so the first thing is we have to realize all of these things, that there's no benefit in here. The person is still going to have the benefits from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm complaining about Allah's bounty, so that's going to be an issue. Practically though, it is for the envier to force himself to do the opposite of what his envy forces him to do. If envy incites him to insult the envied person, he should force his tongue to praise him. If it incites him to withhold good from him, he should force himself to give even more. If it incites him to pray for his harm, he should pray for an increase in the very blessings of which he is envious. Very, very tough things to do, but once you do them a few times, then it becomes easier. The ultimate treatment is to uproot envy, is to know its causes and then to remove them. So if we don't realize that we have envy, then we're never going to be able to sort it out. That's what's important. If one overcomes envy, mashallah, there is prosperity for them in both abodes. It is related that Musa alayhi salam once saw a man next to Allah's throne, and out of desire for the same, he asked, what is his most important trait that he's been able to get this position by Allah? The response was, he used to never envy others for what Allah gave them of His bounty. Stress and anxiety are very, very detrimental to a person's health and overall lifespan. Al-Asma'i said, I once saw a Bedouin who was 120 years old. So I asked him, how did you live so long? He said, I discarded envy and just carried on. So if you don't have any envy and you just work for yourself and Allah, then you don't have to worry about it. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz said, I never saw an oppressor more resembling the oppressed than the envier himself. The envier is the oppressor, but he's the oppressed one, because he's only harming himself. So he's like the mazloom instead of the zalim, even though he's out to be a zalim. He has perpetual gloom and continuous deep sighs, echoing the wisdom. The effect of envy will manifest on you before it does on the one you envy. That's why Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu said, there's no vice more fair and just than envy. It kills the envier before the envied person. If the envier can force himself to see others' success as nothing but the action of Allah, subhanallah, he's got that, he's got this, that's Allah's bounties. He will overcome his envy by Allah's permission. Shaykh Mustafa al-Arusi states, a beneficial method for curing envy is for the envier to be inspired to reflect deeply on his creed, which he affirms based on knowledge of revelation, customary norms and the intellect, that in reality, if you just focus on La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah and La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, that in reality there is no doer besides Allah. La fa'ila illa hu. That no one causes progress or regress aside from Him, and that none save Him is able to cause outcomes in anything, then you should be able to get rid of the envy and to recognize that the envier, out of sheer ignorance, is objecting to the decree of his very sustainer, and to think about how much precious time he has spent in sin, coupled with him not attaining his goal. By doing this, inshallah, there is hope perhaps that he will be cured from this disease. There's the last point here. The envier, according to some ancient scriptures, is referred to as the enemy of my blessing. As such, a person hates to see them on other people. Highlighting the gravity of this crime, one scholar said, the envier is a rejecter and an objector. He rejects Allah's blessing and he objects to Allah's blessings, for he is not content with the decree of the One. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from this.